Most good cameras will allow you to see the histogram on the LCD screen on the back of the camera, just for those few seconds viewing time we have set for our previews. But what's also available on many cameras is something which we call the blinkies. Now this isn't a very technical term, but it does sum up the option pretty well, and it can be easier to read the blinkies than perhaps the histogram graph. And this is what the blinkies look like. Any areas that are burnt out in the picture will flash black. So here I've framed up on a shot and I've fired the shutter. On my camera with the blinkies set, I can quickly see any burnout of highlights as this flashing black area on the back of the camera. So when we see the blinkies flashing to this degree, we can clearly see that we have an overexposure issue, and it's certainly bad enough for us to do something about it. So what we'd need to do here would be to drop the exposure about a stop perhaps and take another shot. Now we can see that we're much closer to the exposure we need, but we're still too far off for comfort. So what we need to do here is to drop that exposure just a little more. Now what you're seeing here is what I call my best result, even though I can see some small blinkies showing. What this histogram and the blinkies are telling me here is that I have squeezed as much light into the sensor as I can. I know I can deal with those small highlights, no problem at all, but it does tell me where the limit is. So if I'm able to achieve this sort of thing on the LCD on the back of the camera, it does indicate that my editing is going to be from light tones to dark, which helps me towards image quality, and not having to go from dark tones to light, which in some cases will affect quality and make editing much more difficult. In fact, I can find myself in situations like this, where I fire the shutter, there's no blinkies showing at all, and yet the thumbnail on the back of the camera looks great. But here I'm not sure if I've squeezed enough light into the shadow areas. Can I get more light into the shadow areas without it affecting the highlights, which is just those streaks in the sky in the middle distance? So what I would do in this situation is just increase the exposure a little bit until I just start to see the blinkies flashing, because then I know I've reached the point where I've squeezed the maximum amount of light into the frame. I'm getting the most light I'm going to get into the shadows, but I'm doing so without affecting the highlights. That little tiny area of blinky we can see there is easily manageable in Camera Raw or Lightroom's developed module.